50 English idioms commonly used in conversations. To have an axe to grind. This idiom means to have a personal issue or a conflict with someone. Example sentences. He had an axe to grind with his boss, he was always looking for a fight. She had an axe to grind, she was always arguing with her co-workers. To hit the nail on the head. This idiom means to make a direct and accurate assessment or statement. Example sentences. He hit the nail on the head, he was exactly right. She hit the nail on the head, she knew exactly what was wrong. To hold one's tongue. This idiom means to refrain from speaking or to stay quiet. Example sentences. She held her tongue, she didn't want to start an argument. He held his tongue, he didn't want to say anything he'd regret. To keep one's cards close to one's chest. This idiom means to be secretive or reserved about one's plans or intentions. Example sentences. He kept his cards close to his chest, he didn't want anyone to know what he was up to. She kept her cards close to her chest, she was always very private. To keep one's nose to the grindstone. This idiom means to work hard and diligently. Example sentences. He kept his nose to the grindstone, he worked hard to get the job done. She kept her nose to the grindstone, she was determined to succeed. To keep the wolf from the door. This idiom means to have enough money or resources to survive. Example sentences. He worked hard to keep the wolf from the door. She struggled to keep the wolf from the door, but she managed to make ends meet. To keep up with the Joneses. This idiom means to try to match or emulate the lifestyle or possessions of one's neighbors or friends. Example sentences. He was always trying to keep up with the Joneses, he wanted to have the latest gadgets. She was tired of trying to keep up with the Joneses, she wanted to live a simpler life. To let the cat out of the bag. This idiom means to reveal a secret or to give away information that was meant to be kept confidential. Example sentences. He let the cat out of the bag, he told everyone about the surprise party. She let the cat out of the bag, she told her friend about the secret plan. To make a long story short. This idiom means to summarize or condense a lengthy story or explanation. Example sentences. To make a long story short, they got lost and didn't make it to the party. He told a long story, but to make a long story short, he was just making excuses. To make ends meet. This idiom means to have enough money to pay for basic necessities and to pay off debts. Example sentences. She was struggling to make ends meet, she didn't have enough money to pay her bills. He was working hard to make ends meet, he didn't want to fall behind on his payments. To make one's blood boil. This idiom means to make someone very angry or frustrated. Example sentences. The traffic made his blood boil, he was stuck in a jam for hours. Her boss's behavior made her blood boil, she was tired of his attitude. To make hay while the sun shines. This idiom means to take advantage of an opportunity while it is available. Example sentences. He was making hay while the sun shines, he was taking advantage of the good weather to get his work done. She was making hay while the sun shines, she was taking advantage of the job market to find a better job. To make one's mark. This idiom means to achieve success, recognition, or influence. Example sentences. He was determined to make his mark, he wanted to be known for his work. She was making her mark, she was becoming a successful businesswoman. To make one's bed and lie in it. This idiom means to accept the consequences of one's actions. Example sentences. He made his bed and he'll have to lie in it, he'll have to face the consequences of his choices. She made her bed and she'll have to lie in it, she'll have to live with the results of her decisions. To make one's way in the world. This idiom means to succeed or to find one's place in life. Example sentences. He was making his way in the world, he was becoming successful in his career. She was making her way in the world, she was finding her place in society. To miss the boat. This idiom means to miss an opportunity. Example sentences. He missed the boat, he didn't take advantage of the opportunity. She missed the boat, she didn't get in on the ground floor. To moonlight. This idiom means to work a second job or to do work outside one's regular job. Example sentences. He was moonlighting, he was working a second job to make extra money. She was moonlighting, she was working on her own projects outside of her day job. To move the goalposts. This idiom means to change the rules or criteria of the situation, often in a manipulative or unfair manner. Example sentences. He was accused of moving the goalposts, he was changing the rules to suit his needs. She was frustrated with the company for moving the goalposts, they kept changing the requirements for her job. To move heaven and earth. This idiom means to make a great effort to achieve something. Example sentences. He was determined to move heaven and earth to find a cure for his wife's illness. She was willing to move heaven and earth to get the job done, she was a true professional. To name names. This idiom means to provide a list of specific individuals or groups involved in an activity or event. Example sentences. He was reluctant to name names, he didn't want to get anyone in trouble. She was willing to name names, she was eager to tell the truth. To neck in the woods. This idiom means to be alone in a secluded place. Example sentences. They went necking in the woods, they were looking for a private place to be together. He was necking in the woods, he was enjoying some time alone in nature. To need something like a hole in the head. This idiom means to not need or want something at all. Example sentences. She didn't need another project like a hole in the head, she already had too much work to do. He didn't need another expense like a hole in the head, he was trying to save money. To not bat an eye. This idiom means to show no emotion or reaction to something surprising or unexpected. Example sentences. He didn't bat an eye when he heard the news, he was unfazed by it. She didn't bat an eye, she was calm and collected in the face of adversity. To not cry over spilled milk. This idiom means to not get upset about something that has already happened and can't be changed. Example sentences. She didn't cry over spilled milk, she was focused on moving forward and finding a solution. He didn't cry over spilled milk, he was accepting of the situation and looked for opportunities to improve. To not hold one's breath. This idiom means to not expect or wait for something to happen. Example sentences. She wasn't holding her breath for a promotion, she was realistic about her chances. He wasn't holding his breath for a resolution, he was prepared for the worst. To not lift a finger. This idiom means to not do anything or make any effort. Example sentences. She wasn't lifting a finger to help, she was just watching from the sidelines. He wasn't lifting a finger, he was being lazy and unproductive. To not look a gift horse in the mouth. This idiom means to not question or criticize a gift or opportunity. Example sentences. She wasn't looking a gift horse in the mouth, she was grateful for the opportunity. He wasn't looking a gift horse in the mouth, he was happy to take advantage of the offer. To not make a peep. This idiom means to be silent or to make no sound. Example sentences. She wasn't making a peep, she was being quiet and respectful. He wasn't making a peep, he was hiding and trying to avoid detection. To not mix business with pleasure. This idiom means to keep one's personal and professional life separate. Example sentences. She wasn't mixing business with pleasure, she was keeping her work and social life separate. He wasn't mixing business with pleasure, he was avoiding conflicts of interest. To not pull any punches. This idiom means to be direct and straightforward, even if it is harsh or uncomfortable. Example sentences. She wasn't pulling any punches, she was giving her honest opinion. He wasn't pulling any punches, he was telling it like it is. To not see eye to eye. This idiom means to disagree or have different opinions on something. Example sentences. They weren't seeing eye to eye on the issue, they had different viewpoints. She wasn't seeing eye to eye with her boss, they had conflicting ideas about the project. To not stick to one's guns. This idiom means to change one's position or decision, despite initially being firm or resolute. Example sentences. He wasn't sticking to his guns, he was changing his mind based on new information. She wasn't sticking to her guns, she was being flexible and willing to compromise. To not take any nonsense. This idiom means to not tolerate bad behavior or poor treatment. Example sentences. She wasn't taking any nonsense, she was standing up for herself. He wasn't taking any nonsense, he was being assertive and firm with his boundaries. To not take kindly to something. This idiom means to have a negative or hostile reaction to something. Example sentences. She didn't take kindly to his criticism, she was defensive and upset. He didn't take kindly to the suggestion, he was dismissive and uninterested. To not take no for an answer. This idiom means to persist in trying to get what one wants, despite being told no. Example sentences. She wasn't taking no for an answer, she was determined to get her way. He wasn't taking no for an answer, he was relentless in his pursuit of the goal. To not take the bait. This idiom means to not fall for a trap or be misled. Example sentences. She wasn't taking the bait, she was wise to their scheme. He wasn't taking the bait, he was too smart to be tricked. To not take the plunge. This idiom means to not take a risk or make a bold decision. Example sentences. She wasn't taking the plunge, she was too afraid of failure. He wasn't taking the plunge, he was too conservative to try something new. To not take the words out of someone's mouth. This idiom means to agree with or say the same thing as someone else. Example sentences. She wasn't taking the words out of his mouth, she was echoing his thoughts. He wasn't taking the words out of her mouth, he was expressing his support. To not up to par. This idiom means to not meet the expected or desired level of quality or performance. Example sentences. She wasn't up to par, she was underperforming and falling short. He wasn't up to par, he was struggling and failing to deliver the results. To not waste one's breath. This idiom means to not bother speaking or trying because it will be unsuccessful or ignored. Example sentences. She wasn't wasting her breath, she knew it wouldn't make a difference. He wasn't wasting his breath, he was aware that his voice wouldn't be heard. To play it by ear. This idiom means to improvise or adjust one's plan as the situation develops. Example sentences. She was playing it by ear, she was adapting her strategy based on feedback. He was playing it by ear, he was being flexible and spontaneous. To play hard to get. This idiom means to act uninterested or unavailable in order to increase one's perceived value or attraction. Example sentences. She was playing hard to get, she was making him chase after her. He was playing hard to get, he was creating a challenge for her. To pull out all the stops. This idiom means to use every possible resource or effort in order to achieve something. Example sentences. She was pulling out all the stops, she was putting everything she had into it. He was pulling out all the stops, he was going all in and giving it his all. To pull someone's leg. This idiom means to playfully tease or deceive someone. Example sentences. She was pulling his leg, she was joking around and making him laugh. He was pulling her leg, he was messing with her and playing a prank. To pull the plug. This idiom means to stop or cancel something. Example sentences. She was pulling the plug, she was ending the project and abandoning it. He was pulling the plug, he was cutting ties and terminating the relationship. To put one's foot in one's mouth. This idiom means to make a socially awkward or embarrassing mistake. Example sentences. She put her foot in her mouth, she said something inappropriate and insensitive. He put his foot in his mouth, He made a gaffe and caused a stir. To put one's money where one's mouth is. This idiom means to back up one's words or beliefs with action or investment. Example sentences. She put her money where her mouth is, she invested in the cause and supported it. He put his money where his mouth is, he bet on himself and took the risk. To put someone on the spot. This idiom means to put someone in a difficult or awkward position by asking a question or making a request. Example sentences. She put him on the spot, she asked a personal question and caught him off guard. He put her on the spot, he made a demand and put her under pressure. To put the cart before the horse. This idiom means to prioritize the wrong things or reverse the correct order. Example sentences. She put the cart before the horse, she started with the conclusion and skipped the evidence. He put the cart before the horse, he focused on the destination and ignored the journey. To put the pieces together. This idiom means to understand or solve a puzzle or mystery. Example sentences. She put the pieces together, she figured out the mystery and solved the case. He put the pieces together, he connected the dots and grasped the truth. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more videos.